Hello YouTube, this is ProSlowbro here with my very first battle video for my channel. This is an OU battle against a friend of mine, and he kindly agreed to have this battle with me for my first video. So as we get into the battle here, he's opening out with his Archeops as I lead with my Jolteon. He's got the type disadvantage here, so I'm expecting him to switch. However, I don't want to go for the electric type move as he has a easy switch into his Hippowdon, which I did predict, and unfortunately went for a HP Ice as he strangely went into his Mawile. That's a common theme for the rest of this battle, is a lot of over prediction on my behalf, unfortunately. So I switch out here, fearing the Mawile, as he sees this as an opportunity to maybe evolve and get a Swords Dancer, which is very scary for me. So I've switched into my physically defensive Gliscor, thinking if anything has a chance at taking a shot from this, this is the Pokemon to switch into. So he's going for, so I decided to go for a substitute here, hoping he's going to use a Sucker Punch to out-prioritise me. Unfortunately, he does go for the Play Rough, so that's obviously going to take out my sub here. So I go for the Earthquake here for damage, and it does a nice decent chunk. I'm really regretting not going for the Volt Switch with my Jolteon at this point, as that would have made that a KO. As he goes for the Play Rough and one-shots my max defense, max HP in Bridge Gliscor, which is pretty powerful. So I switch into my Conkeldurr here to try and go for the Mach Punch, not realising that Mega Mawile does actually outspeed Conkeldurr. I don't know what its base speed stat is off the top of my head, but I was expecting a bit more. So he switched into his Archeops now, and I noticed before the battle it wasn't holding an item, so I'm expecting the Acrobatics. So I switch out into my Jolteon as he does exactly what I was expecting, and I resist that, but not as well as I was expecting. So he withdraws here. Now I'm expecting me to go for a HP Ice, which he does, and switches into his Sableye. So I go for a Choice Specs Volt Switch. Sorry about that. A Choice Specs Volt Switch on his Switch, giving me a nice safe switch into my Charizard, knowing that it can't burn me and it can't get a massive amount of damage off on my Charizard. So I go for the Mega Evolution here into reveal that I'm running Charizard X. I'm not sure if he was expecting that or not. I kind of expected him to want to taunt or to switch, but I decided that the best thing to do was go straight for a Flare Blitz and try and get rid of this Sableye as soon as possible so it couldn't be a problem later on, and that goes through successfully there. So 1 up to me at the moment. So anyway, he brings out his I assume it's a physically defensive Hippowdon. It doesn't show an item at any time during this battle, so I'm assuming it must be the Salt Vest, or no, it can't be. So I'm not sure what he's running on this Hippowdon, but it's unusual anyway. So I switch out into my Gengar here, as he goes for the Rock Slide, which was unfortunate. I was kind of hoping he'd go for an Earthquake there and get a nice free switch in. So I go straight for a Disable here, trying to disable his Rock Slide, knowing that that's probably all he can hit me with, but he switches on my Disable. Going back to the whole over prediction thing there. So he's going into his Tentacle, so I just go for a substitute here to scout out what he wants to do, maybe set up Toxic Spikes or go for damage. And he does indeed go for the Scald to try and get some damage and maybe a burn on my Gengar, but luckily I am behind a sub, so there's no risk of that. As my substitute obviously fades there. So rather than over predict again here, I decided to go straight for the Disable. Once we've all got our Black Sludge left, Black Sludge recovery back and taking Sandstorm damage. So yeah, I go for a Disable here to disable his Scald, which works nicely, and that renders his Tentacle pretty much useless against my Gengar right now. So I'm feeling like I've got a safe switch here to try and scare him out. So I go into my Conkelder, yes, here, but unfortunately he also withdraws and goes into his Archeops. If I'd have switched into Jolteon there, that would have been perfect for me, but not everything goes as planned, I guess. So I have to do a double switch into my Empoleon here to take the acrobatics, as my physical wall has unfortunately been knocked out by his Mawile earlier. So I'm getting a bit of leftover recovery here. So I'm quite confident at this point that he can't really hurt me, but then he chose the Earthquake and I'm thinking, oh god, what's going to happen? And I survive on 1 HP and manage to get the Stealth Rocks up, which should put an end to a lot of this switching going on, or at least cause a lot of damage if he keeps trying it. So I decided at this point, since I have no more defensive walls, the best bet is to sack off my Empoleon here, which I do. Bit of a shame because Empoleon can be a great counter to a lot of special attackers. So I switch out into my Jolteon, predicting the Mamoswine again on the electric type attack and go for the HP Ice. It still does a massive chunk to the Archeops, but unfortunately he's able to get a Stone Edge off, hit it, which is impressive, and take my Jolteon out there. It seems like a bit of a waste of a weapon. So I switch out into Conkeldurr here, knowing he can't switch out because he has no Rapid Spinner, and if he switches back in he'll get knocked out by the Stealth Rocks. So Conkeldurr putting in work here. So anyway, switches into his Hippowdon. Sets off the Sandstream again, nice and annoying. And goes for the Rock Slide, probably expecting my Gengar to come in to try and take an Earthquake. So I go for a Drain Punch here, try and get my health back, and that does nothing. This is a Adamant Max attack from Keldor, Assault Vest with Guts, so kind of be nice if you kind of status me in some way, but can't wish for everything. And he goes for an Earthquake there. What I should have done really there was predicted the Earthquake and made a switch into my Gengar to get a special attack off onto his physical wall, but unfortunately that wasn't possible. So I decided to go for a Mach Punch here, just try and get a bit of damage off, predicting him to try and take me out. Unfortunately he goes for the Slack Off now, gets all that HP back again, very frustrating. As he goes for an Earthquake, taking out my Conkeldurr. So that wasn't very successful, and I bring in my Charizard and try to set up on this thing. I know Charizard X has a decent physical defense stat, and he's probably not very invested into his attack, so I'm pretty sure I could do massive. I could use it as an opportunity, sorry, to set up with my Charizard here. So I decided to go for the Flare. Let's see what sort of damage that'll do. And just look at that. That's a max physically defensive Hippowdon. And here he goes for the Whirlwind, possibly expecting me to switch, or maybe he thought he wouldn't survive and just clicked on Whirlwind, or maybe it was a misclick. I don't know, but that comes in very handily later. So he Whirlwinds me out into my Gengar and switches out his Hippopotas, into his Tentacruel, as I go for the Shadow Ball on the switch, just trying to take out the Hippopotas as soon as possible. That does a nice chunk of damage, so I'm happy with that. So we have a bit of a excuse me, we have a bit of a stall war here, as I go for a Substitute, see what he wants to do, as he goes for the Scald. Now what I'm expecting him to do now is switch out, expecting me to go for a Disable, or perhaps change into a different attack. I don't know what set he's running. All he's shown me so far is Scald. But here we go, he goes for the Protect here, just to scout out what I want to do, as I go for a Sludge Bomb, possibly predicting his Greninja, or well, any other switch in really would do a nice sizable amount to it. So I go for a substitute again as he goes for the Scald. But right here is a crucial point in me coming back into this game, as at this point all I have left is my Gengar and my Charizard. Charizard is I think at 8 HP and my Gengar's at 24, so it's looking bad for me right here. So I switch into my Charizard here, hoping and praying that he'll go for a protect, predicting my attack or a disable, and thankfully it pays off and I can get a Roost off to bring my health back up. I know Tentacle won't be fully invested in special attack, which he shows nicely there, so I am capable of Roost stalling him here with my Charizard to try and get some health back, because I know I need this Charizard right now is my win condition and I need to treat it as such. So he goes for another Scald here as I continue Roost stalling his Scalds, which is great for me. So I'm getting up to a nice bit of health where I know I can take at least a critical hit Scald, because there's nothing I hate more than losing a stall or to a critical hit, so I'd rather be allowed for that little extra damage in case it doesn't work. And here I get my Dragon Dance off so I can outspeed his Greninja and everything else he's got left, as he goes for another Scald. So I just go for a Roost here to get a nice sizable amount of health back as he switches out into his Hippowdon, possibly hoping to get a bit of Sandstorm damage on my Charizard. So the Sandstorm stats up there as I go for another Roost, just in case I need to use Flare Blitz. I can take a bit of recoil damage, or if he surprises me with some priority moves. So I go for the Dragon Claw here, easily taking out that Hippowdon. It was at very low HP. Tough Claws, +1 attack from the Dragon Dance. Simple enough. As he brings out his Greninja. He did tell me after the battle that he thought his Greninja would be able to outspeed my Charizard. However, my Charizard's jolly max speed, so with the Dragon Dance up, it's base 100 speed plus 50%. It's got base 100. It's at 150 speed right now. Greninja, I believe, is about 120 to 100, between 120 and 130. So he wouldn't have been able to outspeed. His last Pokemon is his Tentacruel. I go for the Dragon Claw here. I'm not too worried because even if he does survive, I can always switch into my Gengar, and I know that I can do at least 40% damage with a Shadow Ball. However, that won't be necessary as he's finally taken out by his own Sandstorm. So that was a great battle. Thank you, and thank you all for watching.